Hey everybody, welcome back for Photography Challenge Day 4. My name is Terry White and welcome to all the people from all over the world, all on Behance. Glad to have you guys here for Day 4 of the Photography Challenge. It's been a great week. You guys have been doing a great job of the submissions. For those of you who are new, if this is your first day, my name is Terry White, worldwide design and photography evangelist from Adobe, and it's my pleasure to be streaming to you live in sunny San Francisco today. At Adobe. So this is Day 4 of the challenges. We will wrap things up for the week today, but then we'll pick things back up on Monday. So for those of you in the chat, welcome. I see Dimitri, Mark, Anthony, Lucia, Tim, Mark, Unisky Studio, Carol, Owen, Victoria's in the house, the Photoshop artist, Claire, Humberto, Renee, Debbie, Kobe, and of course Adobe Live's here, Rod and Crystal, and anyone I missed, welcome as well, and hello, and happy Friday. It is Friday, right? Yeah, it is Friday. All right, so with that said, we're gonna dive right in, and we're gonna talk about what we've been doing so far, for those of you who are new, and then we'll dive right into today's challenge, which is one of my favorite subjects, retouching. All right, so let's take a look at how you would get started if you're brand new. So you're gonna head over to behance.net/dailycreativechallenge/photo. So the /photo is how you get to the one we're doing this week and next week. So if you haven't already registered, you're gonna click this blue button to register. That way you get notified of what the daily challenges are, when we go live, so forth and so on. So the challenge runs from this past Monday, May 13th, to next Friday, May 24th. And then there'll be 9 challenges, which started this past Tuesday, all the way till next Friday. And it's basically, we've been taking a look at different aspects of post-production from your photography work. And of course, I've been giving you a few photography tips along the way as well, and especially yesterday with compositing. All right, so each day you'll receive the challenge. That happens at 8 a.m. Pacific time. You can join our live show, which is actually, this one's at noon Pacific time, so pay no attention to that 11:30 slot. That's Howard, you know, who wants to watch that? No, kidding. If you're interested in XD, check out Howard at 11:30. I'm on at noon, right after him. And then you're gonna share your work on Behance, and you have 9 challenges, which if you want them to be counted and looked at, they have to be submitted by next Sunday, May 26th. All right, so far the challenges were lighting. We had a lot of good submissions for that. Black and white photo, you guys have really impressed me with the detail of work that you've been doing on black and white. Crop for recomposing, great job on that thus far. And of course, retouching this today. And with each one of these, I've given you a sample image that you can download, or you can use your own, which I actually prefer because I get to see some new photos that way. And then you can submit your entries, which we're gonna talk about that at the end. Use the keyword PS Daily Challenge. That way we can search for them here on Behance. And of course, you can join us on Discord. As far as the Behance entries, I've started putting together a collection on Behance of some of my favorites. So we can take a look at some of those submissions right now. This is like, again, a after shot. I love what you did here. And I didn't even see the person's name. This is Cheryl Howard. Great job on this. Taking my image, which is kind of blah, out of the camera. You got rid of the dude over here on the right-hand side. You made the rocks really stand out. Great job on this one. And then, of course, we've had some black and white submissions. This is not the only one I like, but certainly one of the best ones I like so far, from Angela McClatchy. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Here's another black and white challenge. This one's from Cynthia Salgado. Again, that's the before image, the after images. Great jobs on those. And of course, another one of the lighting images. And again, feel free to get rid of that dude. I don't know who that is, but feel free to get rid of that person. All right, so let's jump over and take a look at what we're doing today. So I'm gonna switch over to Photoshop. And in Photoshop, we're gonna do some retouching. And I have an image here for you guys to work on. It's one of the ones you can download. And this is a friend of mine. This is actually Tony Guerrero. And Tony's an actor. And I'm not kidding, like, you know, I don't mean an Instagram or YouTube actor. I mean a real actor. So let's go look at Tony's IMDb page. Here's Tony Guerrero. And he was actually in the Tom Cruise American Made movie. So if you saw the plane where, you know, he was walking down the cargo thingy and interacted with Tom Cruise, that's my buddy Tony. So Tony was doing that. And you're going to get to work on Tony's picture today. All right, so, and check him out. Check out his movies. Check out his page. And let's take a look at this image. So I did a portrait session with Tony, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago, before Tony got big. And, no, kidding. He did get big, but we still talk. Let's go and take a look at some of the things that we want to do to this photo. Once again, I will say from this point forward, we're going to probably be using a tablet a little bit more than we have been so far. So you don't have to have one, but if you want to be better at Photoshop and better at retouching especially, a tablet can make all the difference in the world. I'm using the Wacom Intuos Pro Small. I don't care what tablet you get, but having a tablet is better than working with a mouse. And I hope my battery didn't die. All right, that's firing up. All right, the other thing that I want to talk about is that so far, all the things we have done thus far have been things you could arguably say, well, I could have done those things in Lightroom. You could have done lighting in Lightroom. You could have done black and white conversion in Lightroom. You could have done the cropping in Lightroom. But this day forward, this is the kind of stuff that is either impossible to do in Lightroom or certainly very hard to do in Lightroom. So this is kind of where Photoshop will really come in. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into what we're going to do to this photo. Now this photo has, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just basically how can we make it look better? And by the way, I keep looking at the light on my tablet because it's blinking at me. Let's turn it off. Let's turn it back on again. All right, and then hopefully that'll, there we go, connected. All right, so let's go ahead and zoom in. So, and before we zoom in, two things. First, we're gonna duplicate the layer. So if you've never worked with layers before in Photoshop, this is a pretty easy thing to do. And it gives us a safety net to be able to go back to the original image that's untouched. So to do this, you can do it several ways. You can hit Command J on the keyboard, PC Control J, or you can just drag it down to the new layer icon, the little page icon, and that will duplicate the layer. Second thing is that people ask me all the time, well, where do you start? Like, what's the first thing you do? And I always tell them the same answer, because this is the answer I got when I used to ask that question. What's bugging you the most? That's where you start. Because it's hard to think about anything else or work on anything else when something just keeps standing out and bothering you. Now, there are some times where there are processes that make sense to do in a certain order, and we are going to do that towards the end, but it really is about what about this photo is standing out that you can quickly get rid of so you can move on to the next thing. And one of the things that's standing out for me in this photo, we zoom in up here, I just grab the letter, hit the letter Z to get to the zoom tool, hold down the space bar so I can pan around. And I'm saying these things because I know a lot of you are new to Photoshop. And these little stray hairs sticking off Tony's head. These kinds of things are bothering me. So before we go any further with fixing this, or just removing those little stray hairs, let me make sure you're on the same workspace that I'm on. And just in case, because I realized mine needed to be reset earlier, you're going to go up here to the workspace menu. You're going to come down to photography. If you're not already on that one, choose it. If you were already on it, make sure you hit reset photography. Because I noticed some tools were missing earlier today, and it was because the tool panel was on from a different workspace and it hadn't been reset. Okay, so now we should be good to go and ready to start all in the same spot. Now, how do we get rid of these hairs? There are several methods, just like we've been doing all week. I've shown you several methods to do the same thing. It's the buffet style. You pick which one, which entree you like best, which tool you like best for doing the kind of work that you want to do. You could use the clone stamp tool. You could use the spot healing brush. You could use the regular healing brush tool. You could use the patch tool. You could use you could use an eraser, although I wouldn't, but you could use that. Several tools to do this. So just really which one's fastest and most comfortable to you that's going to give you the best results for you. So for example, when I look at the stray hairs here and kind of just where they're like just some are really thin, some are really dark, I probably would lean towards the clone stamp tool for this. Not to say that I would use it every single time, but for this example, I would hit the letter S, go to the clone stamp tool, and now if you try and brush with it right now, it's just going to give you an error because you have to give it a source first. You have to tell it where are you picking up from to start painting that somewhere else. So great that the background's all the same. For the most part, it's just a white background, so we can pick up from anywhere along here to clone it over to this area. So I'm going to hold down the Option or Alt key on the keyboard. We're going to go ahead and click, and then we can go ahead and just simply brush away. So we're going to brush his hair for him. I'm going to brush away those stray hairs. Now, if you go too far, you can always undo, but you can pretty much do it just like that. All right, hold down the Option key again because I'm going to pick a different spot. I'm going to pick up here and just kind of clean this up a little bit since we're in that area, and we'll go ahead and do that. Now we could, it's one of those things, once you see one thing, you're just going to see more. And now you're a barber. Oop, went too far down there. You're Tony's barber, and you're finding all the stray hairs that you didn't see when you first zoomed in because those were the ones that were bothering you the most. Once you got rid of those, then you could see the other ones that weren't as obvious. Okay, so we're done with that for now. You could always do more, but we're done with that for now. So now that I'm here, well, what's bothering me about this area of the subject? Now I notice he's got a couple little pimples or blemishes here, and my rule for removing things from someone's face or skin is I tend to remove things that are either A, temporary, like a pimple is temporary, it's not part of your makeup, it's not part of you, or things that you wouldn't notice in person. Like I see Tony all the time, I would never have noticed those two little pimples on his head because with a photo, you're staring at an HD photo for minutes at a time. You don't stare at someone for minutes at a time and pick out every little thing. If you do, something's wrong, but don't do that. So when we see things like this that we wouldn't ordinarily see, those are okay to get rid of. But if it's a beauty mark, mole, whatever, that's between you and your subject. Usually the subject will say, no, I want my mole, I want my beauty mark because that's who I am. All right, so how are we gonna get rid of these real quick? You could use the clone stamp tool, but in this case, I'd prefer to use one of my healing brushes. Now, there are two. There's the regular healing brush tool, which I rarely ever use. This one is like the clone stamp. You hold down your Option or Alt key, you click a spot first, and then you heal. So I'll do it. And the reason why people do like to use this tool is because you can pick up the skin that's right next to it so it has the same texture. Well, I prefer an easier method, which is the spot healing brush tool, because it does that automatically. It automatically uses the surrounding pixels. All right, so let's go ahead and just do that. Those little pimples there. Now, what about these wrinkles and lines? Is it okay to get rid of them? Well, yes and no. It's okay to reduce them, meaning maybe get rid of a couple to make the person look a little younger. But if you get rid of all of them, then the person looks unnatural. Like Tony's not 20 years old. He's not 15 years old. So he'd be expected to have some wrinkles and some lines on his head. Okay. Here's why retouching has a bad name in the first place. Because in the past, and still probably today, people go too far. They take someone who's 50 years old and make them look like they're 18. That's going too far. So what you really want to do is make the person look their best, make the person look like they would look in person, and don't go too far. So if I removed every wrinkle and everything about his features, that'd be going too far. But little marks and blemishes, those are fair game, because those are things that don't make him who he is and things we would never notice anyway in person. All right, so that's fair enough on that. Now, the stuff under the eyes and the little crow's feet, as they call it, is that permanent? Probably. If Tony got a little more sleep, maybe it wouldn't be there. So I would look at it as that's fair game to either reduce or remove. Now, crow's feet I usually remove or certainly significantly reduce. The stuff under the eyes, we'll handle that separately. So now we're gonna switch to a different tool. It's called the patch tool. The patch tool is like, okay, if you look at the healing brush like a brush, the patch tool would be like a roller. You can do a lot more area at one time. So the patch tool has two settings, normal and content aware. We're going to use it on normal first. Under normal, we're just going to make a selection with it, which is going to draw a selection around this area of the crow's feet. And if I didn't go out far enough, I can just come back around. There we go. And all you're going to do is simply drag it to an area that doesn't have the crow's feet that's nearby. You don't want to drag it to the other side of the face or anything like that, because you want it to be the same texture. So maybe something like that. And that will remove it. Great, awesome. Now the stuff under the eye, which should naturally be there, and that is how Tony looks if he were smiling like this. That's the stuff we kind of want to keep, but maybe not as much. So for example, I could go in and take all of this. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of it all. I'm going to make it look unnatural. So sorry, I held down a, sorry about that. I held down a button on the pin when I did that. Okay, we're going to drag that. We're going to get rid of it. It's going to be unnatural. So boom, that's unnatural. It's completely gone. But don't deselect, because when you patch, you can go up to your edit menu and you can come down and fade the patch selection. So you can bring it back. It's like undo on a slider. So if I bring it all the way back, it's all the way back. But I can say, oh, well, maybe we reduce it by 50%. There. Okay, so now we're making Tony look better, but not like he's 15 or 20 years old. There we go. So just reduce it so it doesn't stand out as much. All right, same thing here. And that line is probably a little tough to do, so let's go ahead and do this one. There we go. Edit, fade, patch selection, and just bring it back some. That way, Tony still looks like Tony, and it's not an unnatural retouch. Okay, now I'm running out of time already. I can't believe this is going so fast, but I've got a few more things I would do. So the teeth and the eyes could stand a little brightening. The eyes are just dark because I didn't light his eyes good enough. That's me. But the teeth could also be brightened as well. To do that, we're going to use the dodge tool. So we have dodge and burn. We're going to hit the letter O, go to the dodge tool, and we're just going to ever so slightly brighten the teeth. So the dodge tool just makes things brighter. The burn tool makes things darker. So we can do this whole eye area here, this whole eye area here, and it's just a subtle difference, just making his eyes just a little brighter. All right. Let's see, I'm just looking at the comments here to make sure I didn't miss anything good. All right, so now let's go in. The next thing that's bothering me is this bulge here, but before I do that, I saw something here. Oh, there's a label there. What's that doing there? And honestly, when I took the shot, I didn't notice it, because if I had taken the shot and noticed it, I would have had him tuck it in and then kept shooting, because then I don't want to have to fix it in Photoshop. But this is one of those things where missed it in the shoot, so now we got to take care of it. Now I'm going to show you the difference of patch versus normal versus content aware. So if we do normal, it's going to do a bad thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and select the label using my tablet, which makes selecting very easy. And if I drag it away now, it looks like it's going to do a perfect job, but when you let go, you get that. You're like, oh, that's not good. Undo. Switch it to content aware. This is when you want content aware. And you're going to say, when I do this, why wouldn't you just, and that didn't work as good, you're going to say, why wouldn't you just use content aware all the time? Like, why would you ever not use content aware if it does it this good? Because sometimes content aware makes it look too accurate and you need it to blend in. So that's why I leave it on normal most of the time, but I use content aware when I need it to be a precise patch. All right, last couple things. So there's 3 things left. So this button sticking out's bothering me. So I'm going to get rid of it with the patch tool on normal. Just going to select it. And you're probably going to say, well, Terry, wait, you can't get rid of it. He needs that button. It makes the suit. And you're right. He needs a button. He doesn't need that button. So now that I got rid of the button that was kind of angled up bothering me, I'm going to select that, just do a liberal selection around that same area and use the patch tool in reverse. I want to patch in something like a better button. like that. Done. Never thought of using it that way, did you? All right, next up, 2 more things. This bulge, it's natural because he's got his hands in his pocket, so his coat's bulging out. I don't like that. So let's go in, filter, Liquify. Liquify is a dangerous tool. Use it for good, use your powers for good, not for evil. And we're gonna be on the top tool, which is warp. You wanna make your brush, which is the bracket right key or bracket left key or the wheel on your tablet. Make your brush just big enough for the area you're pushing, and just gonna go ahead and push that in so it doesn't stand out as much. All right, now while we're here, I'm gonna make the brush really small and get rid of these little wrinkles in the clothes too. All right, we need to patch out, warp out, we can as well. All right, so we'll click OK. There's a whole lot more we can do there, but we're gonna click OK. And last but not least, the whole background has this beige tint to it. And that's just, it's a warm cast on the entire photo. Now I can go through levels and curves and all the things we saw earlier this week to fix it. It's an easier way, which we already know. Filter, camera raw filter, and you have a tool built right in. It's got an eyedropper. It's called a white balance eyedropper tool, and what you're normally targeting is something that's either 18% gray, should be white, or should be black. The background should be white, especially down here where it's really getting beige. So if I just click, fixes it. That's it. You can always adjust it manually with the slider, the temperature slider. So this would make it much cooler. Too cool, where he starts to look not natural. Too warm, he starts to look a little too hot. Not in a good way. All right, so let's go -4, which is where we were. Click OK. And this is our before. This is our after. A lot of little subtle things will make your photo better. It's not about one big thing. Retouching is about a lot of little things. And I'll leave you with this. Guys, we hate our hair thinning. It's a natural thing. But if we have the power to fix it, this is a personal choice that I'm making for Tony. We'll just go ahead and patch that in. We'll just fill that in right there. Shh, don't tell him. All right. So with that said, next up, we would go ahead and export this out. And I learned the hard way a couple days ago that when you export using Save for Web and you're going to post it on Behance, it needs to be at least 800 pixels wide. So why don't we just go ahead and make the width 810, and then we'll save this out as a JPEG, high quality JPEG, actually, yep, and save. And daily 4 challenge. And now we'd head over to Behance. We would create a project. We will upload our file. Daily 4 challenge. There it goes. Continue. Bring them down. And day 4. All right. Crop and continue. Discoverability, make sure you use the keywords PS, daily, challenge, and basic info, tools used, Photoshop, yep, and creative fields, you have to put that in, so we're going to use photography. All right. And publish. And that way we'll be able to find it, and I can hopefully add yours to the collection. So I hope you guys got something out of retouching. I hope you will now go forward and just make your photos that much better. You already took a great photo, hopefully, and what you're gonna do is slightly improve it. Just improve the little things that at first glance, most people probably wouldn't even notice. But when you add up all those little things, it makes a big difference in your photography. So with that said, thanks everyone. Cheryl, thanks. Glad you thought it was an awesome tip. Lucia, thank you. And Adobe Live, thank you. Tim, thanks. And with that, I will be back on Monday. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.